Do you remember when PBS Kids made a show about a raccoon with autism that was actually amazing?
No way.
Hey everyone, before we get into the video, make sure to like and subscribe and leave a hype since I guess that's still a feature. You can also follow me on Instagram at MusicManMatt25 for even more FU content. So a while back, I made a couple of videos talking about episodes of Daniel Tiger that centered around the autistic character Max. Despite my feelings toward a certain tiger toddler, I thought these episodes did a great job showing what it's like for kids with autism trying to make new friends and navigating a world they don't quite understand. As a kid, I can't recall seeing many cartoons with openly autistic characters. In retrospect, there were certainly characters who were probably autistic coded, but they were mostly treated as comedic punching bags that leaned into the stereotypes of what Hollywood believes autistic people are like.
Choo-choo-choo! Choo-choo-choo-choo-choo! All I found was one present, and all I had was a bunch of stupid underwear!
So I wanted to see if there were any modern cartoons with better autism representation than the shows I grew up with. That led me to one of PBS's newer cartoons, Carl the Collector. Created by Zachariah Ora and released by PBS Kids in 2024, the show follows the daily life of a young raccoon named Carl, who, as the title implies, has a special interest in making collections. Whether it's watches, rope, or stickers, Carl has a collection for it. Each episode is named after one of Carl's collections, and the stories revolve around him and his friends facing a problem that directly ties into said collection. When I first saw this show, the thing that immediately stood out to me was the art design. I know some people say the color palette is too harsh, and yeah, it did take me a while to get used to it, but it's so distinct and gives the show a unique look that feels right out of a picture book. A lot of modern children's animation is a bunch of CG Cocomelon copycats that all kind of bleed together. With Carl the Collector, you're not going to mistake it for any other cartoon. Carl himself is a very well-rounded protagonist. Like every person with autism, his special interest is not his entire personality. He's smart, funny, he's not afraid to stand up for himself, and really enjoys spending time with his friends and family. He's higher functioning than someone like Max, but we still see him dealing with the struggles most autistic children face on a day-to-day basis. Ora made it a point to hire neurodivergent writers and creators to help bring Carl to life. He wanted to make sure Carl felt like a realistic and sympathetic kid, rather than just a collection of stereotypes. And at that point, I feel like he and his team really succeeded. But Carl's also not some flawless golden angel who can never do anything wrong. The series isn't afraid to show Carl being selfish, immature, and inconsiderate at times, like most kids are at his age. But unlike brats like DW, Caillou, or Daniel Tiger, Carl's moments of selfishness aren't born out of entitlement or snobbery. In the second episode, The Rope Collection, Carl and his friends decide they want to build a tree fort. At first, they all work together, but Carl ends up taking over and shutting everyone else out as he tries to make the perfect treehouse. The kids decide to build their own tree fort without him, while Carl accidentally recreates the Drake and Josh meme.
I see the problem. Oh, do ya?
After a really impressive scene where Carl calms himself down from a panic attack, the regretful raccoon asks his friends for help and apologizes for shutting them out. Could you imagine any other character I've talked about being that mature to resolve things themselves? When DW got herself stuck in a tree, it took the whole damn fire department to get her down. As Ora explains, the show isn't really about autism. It's about a group of friends going on a series of slice-of-life adventures, and the main character just so happens to have autism. He kind of reminds me of the autistic character from Arthur, who coincidentally is also named Carl. Does PBS think all autistic kids are named Carl? Yeah, with a show about a group of grade school kids in an anthropomorphic world, the comparisons to Arthur are pretty much unavoidable. The show is definitely slower paced and surprisingly more grounded than a cartoon like Arthur, which tends to lean into the more fantastical side of kids' imagination. Carl the Collector instead opts for a more realistic approach, where we see the kids dealing with smaller, more relatable problems that any kid might face. But just because it's slower paced, that doesn't mean the show is boring, which is a big issue I had with Daniel Tiger. Aside from how morally reprehensible this cranky cub can be, the worst part of his show is how damn boring it is. When he isn't yelling at his baby sister or refusing to share his toys, Daniel Tiger spends the majority of every episode with his thumb up his ass and then asks the audience how it smells. And on that note, another reason I wanted to talk about this show is because some of you in my comments section were telling me how there's one character who's even worse than DW and Daniel Tiger combined. Introducing Nico the Rabbit.
Carl's here to go bike riding.
Admittedly, when I first saw Nico, I thought she was just some ripoff of Anais Watterson, or a scrap design from the episode of Gumball where they fight their Chinese knockoffs.
I guess they should have kept the little sister.
In all honesty, it did take me a little while to get used to her character design. The show uses black lines to illustrate fur texture for all the characters, so when you first look at them, it takes a second to figure out where their eyes and mouths are supposed to be. But the real question remains, is Nico the new big bad brat of PBS Kids? I know creators like Snipes Snap and the Cartoon Movement have done a brief overview of the show, but I wanted to do a proper video on the series to show why I think Carl the Collector is the best new PBS Kids cartoon, and why Nico might be the worst new cartoon brat. And where better to start than with the pilot episode, where Nico makes fun of Carl for wanting to ride his bike and causes the poor boy to break his arm. Let's not waste any more time and delve right in. This video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Make sure to subscribe and help get this video to 10,000 likes. Carl can't find his new Collector's Club watch, as he apparently mixed it in with the rest of his wristwatches. Rookie mistake, Carl. Every collector knows you put the special editions in their own separate section. He finally finds the watch when he suddenly remembers he's supposed to meet up with his friends to play. He goes to his friend's house, where we're introduced to Nico and... Nico?
There's two of them!
Turns out Nico has an identical twin sister named Arugula. Cause her character is so nice, they had to draw her twice. Carl and Arugula want to ride their bikes, but Nico says screw that.
Carl's here to go bike riding.
Is she flipping him off? Nico says that bikes are for babies, and Carl resists the urge to strangle her where she stands. Carl says there are over 640 reasons why bikes are not for babies, and honestly, I could just watch a whole episode of him naming each one.
Second, babies do not know what brakes are.
Carl tells her that bikes are the best, while Nico asserts that bikes are lame kiddie toys.
Boring.
Well, excuse me, Nico. We can't all be kick-flipping 90s punk posers like you. Arugula tells her snarky sister to go suck a lemon, and claims Nico doesn't know the first thing about riding bikes. Foreshadowing. Nico refuses to get off her skateboard, so Carl says the radical rabbit can go sit and spin. He tells her to meet him at the creek at 2:30 so he can show her once and for all that bikes are not boring. Arugula tells Carl to let it go, as she knows Nico tends to make fun of things she doesn't understand, the same way DW makes fun of people with empathy. The kids next meet up with their beaver friend.
Hi, Sheldon.
Hey, Sheldon.
Wow, even PBS Kids had their own young Sheldon. Sheldon shows off his new horn, but Carl is hellbent on one-upping Nico on his bike. But Sheldon can't recall ever seeing Nico on a bicycle. Foreshadowing. Carl reminds the crew that they have a schedule to keep. They take a shortcut through the woods, where we're introduced to the final member of their friend group, Forrest the Squirrel.
Run, Forrest, run!
Carl enlists Forrest on his mission for revenge. Wait, kid, where were you keeping that helmet? Carl plans to jump the creek on his bike to prove bicycles aren't boring. He tries to build a ramp by flattening a cardboard box.
Stomp, stomp, stomp.
I can attest, you have to say stomp at least 3 times, otherwise the box isn't truly flat. His friends swear he might be taking things a step too far, but Carl says Nico must pay for slandering the bicycle's good name. It's 2:30, and Nico still isn't back from her dentist's appointment. The hapless hare comes strolling in at 2:31, as she clearly has no sense of time or basic decency. Carl points out that she would have gotten to the creek on time if she had taken her bike.
Bikes are fast and get you places on time.
Looks like Nico's gonna need some ice for that burn. Everyone tells Carl not to jump the creek, except for Forrest, who is clearly an agent of chaos. Arugula tells her snotty sister to quit being a pain and apologize to Carl before he gets himself killed. But honestly, the creek doesn't even look that big. I feel like Robin Hood had more trouble getting past Little John.
I'm drowning! Oh God, I'm drowning!
To Nico's credit, she at least tries to talk Carl out of breaking his neck, but the resilient raccoon asserts he needs to prove his point. Carl uses his favorite watch to count down to his imminent demise. To everyone's amazement, Carl actually makes it over the creek, right before he narrowly snatches defeat from the jaws of victory.
Ow.
Oopsie doopsie. Looks like Carl broke his watch, and also his hand, though he's understandably way more upset about the watch. I'm just saying, limbs are expendable. You can't just replace your favorite watch. Later that day, Carl gets home from the hospital. His new arm cast means he can't ride his bike for the rest of the summer, but his mom assures him he'll be better in no time.
That fall could have been much worse.
Wait a minute, why do I know that voice?
Daniel, you cannot hurt your sister.
Dear God, there is no escaping Daniel Tiger. Even when I'm not talking about him, he still worms his way into my videos. Nico apologizes for upsetting Carl in the first place. She admits she only said bikes are for babies because she doesn't know how to ride one. Wait, wouldn't that make her a baby? Nico says her jealousy made her lash out at everyone. That's when Carl realizes he didn't need to do any of this crap in the first place. Enjoy having a busted hand for 2 months. Nico makes it up to Carl by redrawing his favorite watch, as his cast is now an autograph collection.
He said it! He said it!
Carl agrees to teach her how to ride a bike once his cast is off, though after what just happened, I don't think these kids are eager to hop on a bike anytime soon. So is Nico as bad as Daniel Tiger or DW? Well, the short answer is no, not even close. You really expect me to say that a girl who's embarrassed to admit she can't ride a bike is somehow worse than a kid who beat up his little sister and a little sister who deserved to get beat up? If we're doing a ranking of cartoon brats, I would say Nico is a D, as in doesn't even measure up to a mid-tier brat. Hell, compared to the Tibbletwerps, Nico is the least evil twin PBS Kids has ever created. I know there are other bratty characters on this show, and if this video does well enough, maybe I'll talk about them in a follow-up follow-up video. Since PBS got the rug pulled out from under them, the series has been in a weird limbo where it hasn't officially been cancelled, but they also haven't confirmed any more episodes. And I hope there are more, because I was surprised at how much I enjoyed this show. It may not be as iconic as PBS's heavy hitters like Arthur, Cyber Chase, Dragon Tales, Word Girl, or Fetch with Ruff Ruffman, but I also don't think it's trying to be like those shows. Carl the Collector is a great cartoon for younger kids, especially kids with autism who don't get to see themselves on screen as much as they should. And while Nico might not be the worst brat of all time, she was still a pretty big jerk to Carl in this episode. Don't believe me? Let's review. Nico made fun of Carl for riding his bike. She claimed bikes are for babies, while scooting around on her skateboard like a pre-K hipster. This upset Carl so much that he set up a reckless stunt just to prove her wrong. A stunt that Nico was late for because she doesn't have a bike. She tried to stop Carl from jumping the creek, but still refused to apologize until it was too late. It was only after Carl broke his hand and his favorite watch that Nico finally said sorry. She admitted she can't ride a bike and only made fun of Carl because she was jealous. And although her apology was sincere, there aren't enough sorries in the world to replace Carl's favorite watch. So while she might not deserve a full FU, I think Arugula put it best when she said,
Not nice, Nico.
"Yeah, not nice, Nico." Thanks for watching, everyone. If there's a specific cartoon you want me to watch, top-tier patrons can commission a review from my channel. You can also become a channel member to get early access to all my uncensored videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
And I say, hey, what a wonderful kind of day. If you could learn to work and